I am on a little bit early. It's my birthday weekend, so I got some things to do. But I wanted to have this quick conversation just because there's been so many weird things that I've been observing lately. And it's just like I'm trying to process it all, really. I'm really just trying to process all of the weird, crazy stuff that is happening. So, um, catch this on the replay if you miss it. But I'm just kind of going to go right in, like I said, because I got some things to do. You know, you know, I did a video about a year or so ago now, maybe, yeah. And I was posing the question to two of my LinkedIn connections who are both Black conservative males. And I said, as somebody who was relatively new, I'm like, why is it, because I'm like, Black conservatives, they hit on a lot of common sense points, right? I think that there's a lot of traditional and I would say common sense values that Black conservatives are able to put on the table that are just common sense, right? I think whether you're Black, white, any color, there are a lot of points that Black conservatives try to promote in terms of the Black community that are very useful to the progress of the Black community. And that, as I got in a chance to learn more about Black conservatism, our biggest question has always been, why don't Black conservatives resonate to Black liberals? It seems like they make a lot of sense. It seems like, from a value standpoint, there seems to be more economic power being a conservative versus someone with the liberal mindset. And, one of the things that attracted me to Black conservatism is that it did not uphold the victimized mindset. It is a really capitalist, free market mindset. And that is what attracted me, to the Black conservative movement. And I think that, when you think of Black conservatism, there's different layers that you can think about. You can think about some of the mainstream faces, or you can kind of think about some of the conscious, Black conservatives that I find to be more effective in the community. So you have people like, like I said, Walter Williams, Thomas Sowell. These brothers don't necessarily have a negative image in the Black community. And in fact, I would say that a lot of Black people don't really even know them, which is unfortunate. And so Black conservatives do have an opportunity to sort of regain the education in the Black community and, sort of give Black people the education that they should be having in terms of their history, and even down to some of the Black beacons that we should be really admiring to move us forward, like Thomas Sowell. It was amazing on LinkedIn. There were more white people who knew who Thomas Sowell was. They studied him in school or high school than Black people. And I think that Black conservatives, especially the ones with bigger platforms, they really have an opportunity to use their voice in a very impactful way, but they're not doing that. They're not doing it. And I think that is valuable for somebody to at least explain or at least break down, have this dialogue of why Black conservatives do not resonate to Black liberals. And to kind of dig into this conversation, I'm just going to kind of go to, I'm going to take a middle of the road perspective and kind of take the Black liberal argument about the Black conservative. And I'm going to kind of explain sort of maybe where some of these arguments are coming from, or if they're a little bit irrational. And then later on, we're going to talk about the white conservative. No disrespect, man. I was one of those people when I went over to this conservative side, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to date only conservative men. And then I realized like something's wrong here. And I'll tell you what I find that's wrong, and how, even conservative men can have that beta male personality and even a touch of weirdness and contradiction, and why white conservative males are really being victimized by CRT. So we'll talk about that. So Black conservatives, right? The one thing about Black conservatives is they can talk about Black problems because they are Black people. 9 times out of 10, these people come from Black families, right? Some of them may have come in. I think of a lot of Black conservatives as they didn't come from the hood. They didn't come from poverty. They came from probably, relatively well off, lower middle class to upper middle class homes. They probably had some cousins who were probably in a less fortunate situation than them. They probably had cousins who were being raised in like sort of that poverty mindset, that construct of Black poverty. And so what I find is that a lot of times, you find when you have Black people that come from decent backgrounds, there's a couple of things that happen. Either they will look down on Black people in poverty, almost with this supremacy of lot in life, like, you're poor, I'm better than you. And some of them are hyper conscious of that, or they can look down on sort of the behavioral aspects of the poverty line Black. Whatever it is, that kind of takes them sort of to understanding or seeing Black problems, not so much close up, but they see it, and then they sort of see the patterns of it, but they're not really in there, right? So that's why when you hear Black liberals say that Black conservatives are disconnected from their community, they don't with their community, that's because really it's true. They're not very connected to the Black culture. And that's really, for some of them, on purpose. They don't want to be connected with the Black culture. They don't want to be connected with the social constructs of Blackness. Matter of fact, some of them hate it. And that's where that self-hate of some of these Black conservatives come from, where they talk about Black people like a dog. They can't stand the Black people, and they generalize any Black person that's not a liberal into this bucket of ignorance. And I find that a lot of times they politicize the issues of Black America. And when you make the issues that are very complex among Black Americans about politics and political decisions, that's when you start really losing Black people, because you're not really coming at their problems from a pragmatic standpoint. You're really kind of just saying, hey, go from here to there and everything will be better. And that's just not true. The issues in Black America are very complex. And I think that a lot of people are lazy. They don't want to break down kind of the psychological impacts of certain social projections about different groups. And we're going to get into these social projections more, because it's happening to white people. They don't realize it, but it is happening to whites. Because when you think about critical race theory, when you think about critical theories in general, right, you need to have that inferior person and you need to have that oppressor. And so what's happening is white people are being vilified as being oppressors, right? This is their oppressor role. That's why even if you got 5 Black cops that beat the hell out of another Black man, because police brutality is sensationalized as an oppressive thing that white people are supposed to be doing to Black people, the psychological idiots on, the Democratic side, they're going to find that as a way to blame it on white people. Regardless. That's why if it sounds nonsensical to you that they are attributing Tyre Nichols to white supremacy and white people, it is because they are trolling your role. They are trolling your role as inferior, trolling your role as the oppressor. They need Black people believing that they are oppressed, and that police brutality is sensationalized for them. So no matter what instance or what the situation is in the police brutality, they need Black people fearful of it in the context of being fearful of whites, right? So white people, though, have gotten into this, sort of critical theory mindset so much that you got Marjorie Taylor Greene validating y'all, the anti-whiteness. You got the Democratic Party validating it, right? And so it's easy for a Black conservative to tell a Black person to wake up to the manipulations of the Democratic Party to Black people, but they don't have the balls to tell white conservatives that they're also being played by the Democratic Party. And all this anti-whiteness thing is just their reverse psychology to play you guys. So you guys need to wake up. Some of you guys need to wake up, right? Because all this anti-whiteness that really puts white Americans in a bucket of victimhood, which now we all are in one now. Now we got the anti-whiteness out. Now all of us are victims, right? All of us are victims in the United States, right? And it's so clear that this is just a sad reality reactive for a lot of white men instead of being a real alpha male. And I'm going to get to that because I think it's kind of weird what some of these white conservative males are doing. You're kind of contradictory to your Christian values, in my opinion, but do what you want to do. It's not my business to tell anybody what to do, right? But you got Marjorie Taylor Greene telling, white people that the white male is being attacked in corporate America, right? And then you got these Black conservatives who refuse to tell white people, their white conservative base, that they are also being played with reverse critical race. And so it's so sad that a lot of white men are just jumping on the train of this anti-white attack. I posted a picture, and you can check it on my YouTube, of just, different diverse looking people. Now I see at least 3 white dudes in this picture, right? And maybe they don't have blonde hair, blue eyes, but they are white as hell to me. And this dude, and I get guys on LinkedIn like, where are the white men? And it's like, see, there's your psychological manipulation right there. A Black woman posts a picture of diversity and unity. And the first thing you are crying about is, where are all the white men? Right? Because that is what you're being programmed to think about, that you're being wiped out, you're being obliterated. And it's like, come on, white guys. Come on, white men. Look at the faces at the top, right? No matter how many women, people of color that they sprinkle in, y'all still there. And they not about to push y'all out anytime soon, right? I mean, matter of fact, the money that's funding half of this dumbass shit is white man's money. Be easy, right? This is literally a reverse psychology attack. And some of you guys are like, we love Candace Owens because she's a champion for anti-whiteness. And it's like, that's exactly why Black people ain't listening to her ass. Because you should be just a champion for everybody. I'm sorry, I'm a champion for everybody. Black, white, I don't care about some of these projections. My thing is, be smart enough to know what's happening to you. Be smart enough to know that Black people are not the only people being manipulated in the United States to think victimized. And if you got anti-whiteness, concerns, sadness, all that crazy stuff on your lips, what did I do? Did I lose it? I mean, if you got all that stuff on your lips, hey, what's up, Marshall? But if you got all that on your lips, just understand you're being manipulated too. You're being manipulated too. And see, what anti-whiteness, in terms of the rhetoric and what the Democratic Party is doing, what they are funding, is they are really psychologically pushing white people to hate Black people, because what they do is they get these Black faces on all these networks talking cash shit about white people. I mean, think about it. You got people like Tiffany Cross that were hired for nothing but talking shit about white people because they need white people inflamed with people hating them. Right? So this whole critical race theory playing out in society, white people are being psychologically manipulated, and you're being manipulated so hard that some of you guys will end up hating Black people at the end of the day. If you don't get the right information and if you don't get the right perspective to understand what is happening to you, that is exactly what your result is going to be, because they're pushing white people to think ignorantly, vicariously through lodging attacks on them on behalf of Black people. And so your Black conservatives need to put you on game with that, right? So that every time somebody posts a diversity picture and there's one white guy, you're not tripping because there's only one, or that you can't see the white guy. We got to circle all the white guys because you're so consumed with anti-whiteness. That's what they need you to be, consumed. And they also need you obsessed white men with trans men. And I'm gonna, like, this is just my opinion. I'm looking at all these mainstream conservatives put projections of men kissing men. These like broke back, and I think there was like our last whatever I saw it on Ben Shapiro. He's showing men being romantically. One thing I guarantee any man that follows this content, you will never see those projections. You will never see the projections of a man looking like a woman. You will never see the projections of a man kissing another man, because I'm not going to support that agenda by putting that in front of your eyes, because all you need to do is see these things a few times and it's embedded in your brain. And so I'm going to make a commitment to the men that follow my content. I'm not about to put the devil in your brain. You will never see Dylan Mulvaney. You will never see me following his transition, because I don't care about that. It's all that's weird to me. And if it's weird to me, it's like I'm not about to commit content to giving these narcissists a part of my platform. I don't, like, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you probably only saw me post one trans person, that Biden dude from the army or whatever postseason, and it was like a really spoof of that. You know, I don't post simulations. You know, I don't focus my content on simulation. And I definitely am not trying to get into a regular guy's who just trying to fight his way through all this craziness here by literally flooding him with projections of men that look like women. Like, and to me, it's like, as a Christian, is that really loving? Would that really be loving of me to have to support content like that when I got a Christian brother who's just trying to get through, try to navigate in prayer around all this craziness? Is it loving for me to sit there and put trans, sensationalism in front of his face as my content, right? I mean, I would think that people who follow content like mine, whether you're on LinkedIn or YouTube, you're trying to get away from the craziness. You're not really trying to see that shit. And so to me, I think it's weird that you got all these alpha conservative guys just fixated with Dylan Mulvaney. And then one guy blew my mind. He blew my mind because he's been obsessing about Dylan. And then the next thing you know, he was like, I'm looking at his transition and, he looks better before. Like, so you have an opinion now. Like, you're being so desensitized by these projections that even your conservative people are putting in front of your face that you're getting desensitized, right? So that's what it is. So, and that's really part of all of this repetitive projection and this information overload, is to get us desensitized from our morals. And that's really what it is. If you want to demoralize a nation, you want to emasculate their men, right? Get their so-called alpha men covering men that are transitioning as women and guise it as disdain, but they keep doing the shit. So obviously it doesn't bother them that much. That's just my opinion. It's weird to me. It's weird. Like, if my guy, like if he was fixated on Dylan Mulvaney like that, I'd be like, look, bro, it's been great dating you, but I'm gonna need you to run along, right? Because you're a little too fixated on that. And that's just no disrespect. And it's not about, I don't feel like trans people should not be seen or anything like that. But I'm talking about people who say that my core values is to not support lifestyles, like alternative lifestyles like that, unnatural lifestyles, if that's your opinion. But yet you are projecting that onto other people that are in your audience who claim that, they're trying to keep their selves pure of this shit. So I just think it's weird. I done saw every single major conservative dude follow Dylan Mulvaney's transition. And the weirdest thing of all, too, is that I see more conservative men following trans men than even liberal guys. Like, liberal guys don't really care. It's like, that's that thing. I'm gonna be an ally if I need to, but even liberal guys aren't really obsessing about, covering these trans people, we know this is an agenda. We know this is an agenda. You know what I mean? If you want to talk about the informativeness of this, but when you're sitting up there trolling somebody who's trans, you know, guys in it as discussed, but then you really just having a great old time showing a man that looks like a woman to your audience of so-called Christian men, it's like you're normalizing this shit. Whether you want to admit it or not, you are part of the problem. You're not a real Christian because you really would not be committing your content to showing these people, because they are supposed to go against your core values. And honestly, what the Bible says, that the lifestyle that people are supposed to live, if you're a true Christian, right? You can respect trans people. Like I said, you can, you know, see somebody, respect them or whatever like that. But to me as a Christian, I'm not about to advocate for that lifestyle. I'm not about to advocate for that agenda. And the way that I do that on my content is I don't give those narcissists any type of show on my platform. Like, I am not about to commit my content to showing you guys pictures of trans men. I'm not about to commit to showing you content about men kissing other men. That's just, I don't, you know, that's their personal choice. That's just not something that I want to show the people that follow me, because that's just not something that they believe. Because I believe that a lot of people that follow me are like real Christians up in here trying to just live our lives, survive until the end of this system of things. When God say it's enough. It's enough of all this craziness. I'm about to take care of all of this, my kids. Don't worry. God gonna take care of it. But Black conservatives, you know, getting back to them, you know, really try to do a little bit better with your audience. Do a little bit better with your audience, you know. And I want to talk about self-hating too, because, you know, a lot of liberals are using that Black self-hate argument with the Memphis cops, you know, as a root of racism. Here's the thing. There are a lot of self-hating Black people, and I touched on this earlier. There are a lot of self-hating Black people on both the liberal and the conservative side, and they hate for different reasons, right? There's different layers to it. Like, liberal Blacks, they hate that they're victimized by the constructs of Blackness, right? And so sometimes they will kind of thirst for power to rise above that idea of Blackness. And sometimes when they get into a position of power, they don't get in there to elevate other Black people. They're just getting in there for a self-serving reason to rise above the lot of other Negroes. Whereas conservative Blacks, to me, I don't really look at them as trying to rise above victimhood. They're really just trying to rise above the association of being Black in America, because it has a negative stigma. And that's why a lot of Black conservatives, and a lot of people have said this, and it's actually an observable trait, that once they abandon the idea of Blackness, they go to the construct of whiteness, and that's why some people like Black conservatives act white. It's like, yeah, probably so, because they're kind of going into the construct that makes them feel less inferior, right? And so it's almost like the Clark's doll test, right? And back in the 40s, where they put the dolls in front of the Black kid and they showed them the white dolls and the Black dolls, and they asked them which one did they perceive as more beautiful. And a lot of kids went to the white dolls, and they, you know, kind of talked about the inferiority of the Black doll. Well, those psychological, factors still exist in Black Americans today. It just manifests itself differently. So I find that Black conservatives, they want to be away from any association of Blackness, the construct of Blackness, any cultural appropriation of Blackness. That's why they will say, I'm American. I'm not Black American. I'm American. And it's just like, okay, yeah, but you do realize there's a difference between ethnicity and nationality. And nationality typically doesn't have the same cultural depth as someone's ethnicity or cultural heritage. That's why for me, it's kind of weird with Black Americans, because like some of us don't want to be called Black, some of us don't want to be called African American, some of us want to be called Indigenous people, some of us want to be called Hebrews. So it's like it's all this weird mix of identity with Black people. But with Black conservatives, you know, I think that most of them sort of move towards the construct of white, and that's why you'll see a lot of them will adopt white mates. There's nothing wrong with dating interracially. My dating resume is like the United Nations, but I'm just saying that, you know, it's dating with purpose, right? So a lot of Black conservatives will date white mates because of the benefit of having biracial kids too, because in the broad scheme of Blackness, right, biracial people always are first pick. If you need to pick a token Negro in any corporation, typically you're picking the biracial ambiguous one to represent Black people. And so a lot of them do that so that they can give their kids, you know, some competitive chances too. And, you know, obviously, the lighter their kids come out, the more ambiguous they can become, and they can actually pass as white, like Meghan Markle, where they can actually exist, you know, far removed from the construct of Blackness until they marry a prince, and then it's leverageable, and then they become Black again. You know, I'm Black, you know. But I can imagine that Meghan Markle probably lived her life as a white woman, or the construct of whiteness, up until she got with Harry, where she saw that advantage. But I don't want to stay on long. If you like this discussion, please like this video, share this video. I'm a smaller content creator, so, you know, I'm not as super committed as some people who drop every day, all day. I'm like, maybe once a day is all you get, once or twice a week. But I'm gonna try to be regular Friday, do a Friday chat. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Is there anything else? You know, I'm not gonna talk about the squad crybabies, right? I don't even care about like Rashida Tlaib, you know, Black people. It's so funny. You have a lot of Black people who are talking about how, you know, Rashida Tlaib and what's the guy named Sri Tanadar here in Michigan. You know, a lot of people got problems with them, right? Because, you know, they're here using Black music, right? Trying to appeal with Black people, and they're not Black people, right? But what they use is sometimes they'll use a person like Rashida Tlaib or Sri Tanadar who have a little melanin, and they're like, Black enough, you can represent Black people. But we weren't like really feeling, you know, that. But I don't care about the squad. I can't wait till all of those people are voted out. AOC, Ilhan Omar, all of them. I think they're just useless to the United States. A lot of people in Washington are very, very useless to the United States. Project Veritas's video is being censored. I mean, they are wiping, like, honestly, this is China. Like, this country has been China for a while. I'm noticing how the internet is just so, you know, skewed. Like, information is skewed on the internet now. Google populates top searches for skewed information, in my opinion. They will populate the most skewed information first. And most people who don't have a research inclination, they're going to take those first search verbatim and they're, oh, I got the information, I got the answer. It's like, no, don't trust Google. You need to be going multiple pages and reading multiple things before you draw your conclusion, because everything is being manipulated on the internet. Everything. Things are being wiped, information covering big time tech and farmer people. Like, this is happening in real time. So, I mean, in terms of truth and trying to find truth, I mean, it really is a word on the streets kind of thing now. What's up, Tia? There's a lot of information that's no longer available. You're right. As I'm saying, there's a lot of information that is no longer available. You can't research it, even down to Google Scholar, which used to be very, very creditable. You can't even trust Google Scholar. You know what else you can't trust? ChatGPT. ChatGPT is so liberally biased, and they actually had the nerve to start a subscription. I'm like, I'm not about to subscribe to these lies. I mean, it's literally, and one of the things that's so funny, I asked ChatGPT something, and it literally wrote the same thing that I saw on a Wikipedia article. So I think that, you know, this thing is supposedly pulling information from all sorts of sources, but I don't really think that it's diversifying. I think the human touch in there is definitely there, which tells do. AI is nothing without humans. It needs it to program. I don't think that AI is ever going to have a brain of its own. I think that you can kind of program AI to kind of look at patterns of things and even down to emotions. Maybe you can kind of program it to have emotions to an extent, but these are still things that humans programmed into it. So ChatGPT, I gave it a try. I mean, I think it's biased. I wouldn't, that's not something that I would use as a credible source of information at all. I mean, I asked it, I said, men are not women, and it literally violated me. It gave me the big orange flag. So you guys take that for what it is. Conservative men. See, I actually, like, you guys got to see another post of mine. I literally posted, I had to change again. Now I will only date libertarian guys, because like these conservative men got me confused. It's like, what in a Brokeback Mountain is going on? Why are you guys so obsessed with this male on male transition to female stuff? Like it's just, I just don't associate that with a regular man committed content. I just don't. That's facts. I was looking to make extra income, and I saw jobs hiring for people to work that chat. It's not AI. Nah, not at all. I mean, I feel like it's a bunch of fact checkers. Whoever they got hiring fact checkers, they're probably going to be working at Chat GPT, right? Censoring thought, censoring rationality, manipulating rationality, because I think that's what Chat GPT ultimately will be designed to do, is manipulate people's reality and their rationality, right? So if you say, men can't be women, and it literally defies you, and it's like men, and then you try to reframe it, and no matter how you reframe it, it will never give biological men or biological women their rights in terms of exclusivity, outside of all these fringe ideas. And, I said this like on LinkedIn today, I feel like, people need to stop expecting other people to accept their personal choices, right? Because most people make personal choices devoid of what anybody else is going to think, right? So if I make a decision that, okay, I'm going to transition into a guy, I tell that to my family. They give me their objections, and I'm like, whatever, this is what I want to do. This is going to make me happy, right? And then I transition into a guy, and they're like, man, you look like a mad feminized chick, and I'm only 5'2", right? And I would have to have a crap ton of surgery to look like a guy. But it's like, I guess my point is, it's like, it's just weird to me. It's just, all of it is just absolutely weird. I almost lost my point because I just saw something flash on here, but I just feel like it's just weird how they're trying to manipulate people's minds into believing that certain things are natural and acceptable. And it's not. We are literally normalizing mental problems. It's like, that's my point. Like on LinkedIn, I was saying, people make personal choices. They have to stand on those choices, whether everybody else accepts them or not. Like if I want to be a unicorn and I get a unicorn horn on my head, right? It is literally not my right to expect anybody else to look at me every day, interact with me every day, and not think that's freaking weird. It's just not natural. But I identify as a unicorn. Matter of fact, I'm changing my name to Unicornia, right? Because this is how I think and associate, and I expect for everybody to accept that, and not only accept it, make me feel better about it, validate me. And that's ultimately what a lot of these trans people and some of these agenda people are ultimately force feeding on society, is that, there's always been trans people in society. We know this, but what these people are doing is they're on an agenda to force feed it. So what conservative men are doing by constantly committing content to showing these people, running their videos, right? You're a part of that agenda. You are so a part of that agenda. And, this other, like this one that Ben Shapiro show, I don't watch these shows. I think it was called The Last Riot or Our Last Days or whatever. And it was about these two, which you would consider sort of like really backwater type guys, sort of, and they on some Brokeback Mountain stuff, and this is what they're trying to psychologically manipulate the masculine male into looking at and really being accepting. And it doesn't help that you have all this male to female feminism and toxicity too. So I expect there's going to be a lot of guys coming out or who are going to be down low because they're going to be looking at all this stuff constantly and they're going to be thinking about other men, or they're going to be down low talking about they hate trans men, and undercover they are probably going to be banging them. So that's my take. I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. I got to get going. It's my birthday weekend. I'll be 40 years old on Sunday, the big 40. So I'm about to just kind of go out, get some stuff done. I got a couple of things in the works tomorrow, and I don't care about being 40. One of my friends was like, "Are you freaking out?" I'm like, "What the hell for? I'm not a loser." I've literally evolved my mind. And, about 37, I really started looking at things and changing and adjusting my mind, kind of looking at things more objectively, appreciating traditional values a little bit more. So I feel like before 40, I've been able to not be a liberal and change my rationality of thought and grow up, be more ambitious, and I feel like a more actualized person. So I'm all good with 40. I feel like it can only get better from here when you've made adjustments like that. So I'm excited. So you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye. Thank you, Tiff. Thank you, Marshall. And thank you to anybody else who have tuned in. And draw close to God. If you need to be projecting anything, get projected with some scriptures, because there's all kinds of things on the internet that is just, to me, psychologically manipulating.